Hi friends, welcome to Thoughtful Thursday. It's Pastor Karen. We are finishing up our dive into the fruit of the Spirit with the last fruit of the Spirit that we read about in Galatians, self-control. And it would be easy for us to say, well, last but not least, self-control, or the last one is self-control, and maybe that's the least important. And to be honest, I kind of maybe always thought that, right? Who doesn't love love and joy and peace and faithfulness and all of those other parts of the fruit of the Spirit that we've been talking about? And it's easy enough to say at the end, like, oh yeah, and then self-control. Oh yeah. Oh, that's right. There's self-control too. And so often we can get caught up in the fact that maybe self-control doesn't seem quite so powerful as love, or as important as peace, or as comforting as joy. But I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about how so very important self-control is, and how without cultivating the fruit of self-control, without appreciating this fruit, this gift that we have been given to have self-control through the Holy Spirit, we honestly can't really have any of the other parts of the fruit of the Spirit. In 2 Timothy, it says, "For the Spirit of God does not make us timid, but it makes us powerful and gives us love and gives us self-control." So this is a gift right there with love and power and self-control. So how do we know that we have self-control? What does self-control even mean? And I know some of you are probably thinking, well, I usually think about self-control when it comes to food, especially food that I am not supposed to eat, right? It is hard to have self-control when someone brings a dozen donuts to work. It's hard to have self-control when you drive past Rita's Water Ice on a really hot day. It's hard to have self-control when you want that extra order of French fries, right? And so often we think of self-control as kind of like having willpower. Maybe we think about self-control when we don't want to buy that impulse buy item at the grocery store checkout, right? We're not going to buy that candy bar or that magazine, or fall into the trap of buying that something that's at the cash register that is put right there just so that we might purchase it on a whim. And we might say that we don't have self-control, that we fall into that. I'm not so sure that that's all that Paul was talking about when he told us that this Spirit gives us this fruit of self-control. In fact, I think that self-control is like the basket that holds all the fruit, right? It's the foundation, it's the underlying, it's the understanding that there's a difference between us and what we think and how we what we might say or what we might do, and what God would have us do, and what God would have us say, and how God would have us interact in a situation. And this week, as I was pondering this idea of self-control, I kept hearing the difference between responding and reacting, right? Do we hear the difference? The reaction is something that we just do, right? It just kind of comes out of us. And yet a response allows us to step back, not use our very first gut feeling or our knee-jerk reaction to something, to give it some thought, to pepper it with this love and joy and gentleness and faithfulness and kindness. It gives us the opportunity to figure out what is our best response to a situation. What is our best response to a person? Not just our reaction, which may not be grounded in love, joy, peace, faithfulness, gentleness, goodness, kindness, and or self-control, right? I've been doing a lot of work on my own self-control for probably the last year or so, and I have kind of established this idea in my mind. So we all know what our buttons are, right? We all know what kinds of people push our buttons. We know what kinds of situations push our buttons. We know what kind of places that we get into trouble when we are faced with that. Maybe that is the chocolate bar at the checkout stand. Maybe that is that extra donut that your coworker brought in. But maybe it's the person who always just has to disagree with you. Or maybe it's the person who seems to take advantage of you. Or maybe it's the person who asks you to do something and doesn't take no for an answer and just asks and assumes you're going to say yes. Maybe it's those places where we feel like we act or we react, and then later we think, darn, that pushed my buttons. I was tired of getting to those places in my life, and I really wanted to feel like I had a little bit more self-control. That I didn't feel like I was always reacting to situations or always feeling badly about myself when I didn't react or respond the way I would have liked to have done. And so I started to consider, what are my rumble strips? You know, those really annoying kind of grooves in the highway that remind you or maybe wake you up or tell you, hey, you're getting close to the edge of the road. You're getting close to the guardrail. You know, now's the time to react before something bad happens. So I started to really wonder and really think about, what are my rumble strips? What things do I start to do, or what things do I start to think about that maybe remind me that I'm headed in the wrong direction, that I need to bring it back before I have that reaction? How can I respond with love and joy and faithfulness and gentleness and self-control and all of those other pieces of the fruit of the Spirit? So I'm challenging you this week to think about, what are your rumble strips? What are the places where you say, you know what, when I start to do this, I know that we're in trouble? I'll share one of mine with you. So during this quarantine, we have really cut back on our eating out. We've cut back on our ordering out in our eating in restaurants. We've been going to the grocery store, once every 2 weeks like everyone else. And we've recognized that our bank account is really very healthy because of it. And our bodies are really healthy because of it. And so we don't want to get back into that habit, even as things start to open up and we feel more comfortable getting out and about. We don't want to fall back into that trap of thinking that it's easier just to eat out or order some food. So I set a rumble strip for myself. I said, if we eat out more than once a week, I need to say to myself, why are we doing this? Is it because we think we're tired? Is it because we think we don't have time? Is it because we think we would rather have that food? That's my rumble strip. Now, I very well may order out the second time that week, but I have set that ability to reset myself. We are not reacting to our fatigue or reacting to our thought that we don't have enough time. We are responding. We are responding to, hey, I would really like to order from that small business this week. We haven't supported this restaurant in a while. Why don't we try to do that this week? So that's just one of my rumble strips. If you want to talk more about them, I'd be happy to chat with you about my rumble strips. Because I think that this idea of self-control is that so often we react in what we think is the reaction that we should have, right? And I'm not going to take credit for this, but I found this thought about self-control on the internet, and I would like to just share it with you because I couldn't have written it better myself, and so sometimes it's just better not to try to take credit. But it says that, it talks about how self-control relates to the other fruit of the Spirit, and it says self-control in showing love, even when it's hard. Self-control is finding joy in difficult times. Self-control is pursuing peace in the midst of hardship. Self-control is choosing patience when you really don't want to wait. Self-control is to be kind when it would be so much easier to fight back. Self-control is to be good even when you want to go against God's goodness. Self-control is to stay faithful even when you want to give up. And self-control is to be gentle even though it would be easier to be harsh. Do you hear the difference? Our reactions might make us harsh, or our reaction might make us quit, or our reaction might make us do something that we haven't given much thought to, or our reaction might just go against what God's goodness is for us. But when we mix in self-control, when we allow self-control to be the basket that holds all of these fruit of the Spirit, when we understand that self-control comes in and out of each of these pieces of the fruit, then we can step back. Then we can respond. Then we can give thought. And that we can come to a conclusion with God's help, with the Holy Spirit's help, that we have this self-control. And perhaps our response will be filled with love and joy and peace and faithfulness and goodness and gentleness. So my friends, I pray for you this week for tons and tons of self-control, for a ginormous basket of self-control that you can hold your fruit of the Spirit in. I hope you have a great week, and I look forward to talking to you next week. Bye-bye.